Hey girl, so today we're going to talk about something nobody really prepares you for, and that's how lonely healing can actually be. Girl, people will tell you to heal, they tell you to choose yourself above all else. People tell you to set boundaries. Look, I ain't saying nothing wrong with that, like for real. That's all true, actually. But nobody talks about once you do that, once you actually let that happen for yourself, nobody talks about the silence. Nobody talks about sitting in your room, realizing you don't even know who you can call anymore. Like for real. Nobody talks about healing, how peaceful it can be, but also heartbreaking at the same time. Seriously.
Healing is lonely, not because people disappear overnight, but because you start changing. You start seeing things differently. What you used to tolerate now drains you. Conversations that once felt normal now feels empty. Spaces you used to fit into perfectly start feeling too small. And slowly, without even planning it, you begin to pull away. Not out of pride, not out of anger, but because you can't keep betraying yourself just to feel included. So, yes, you lose people, you outgrow dynamics, you become quieter, more selective, more aware. And in that process, you might find yourself alone more than you used to. That kind of loneliness hits differently. It's not just no one is around, it's no one understands where I am right now. But that space, it's not punishment. It is preparation. It is where you release, where you relearn about yourself, your boundaries, your standards, your peace. It's where unhealthy habits break and healthier ones begin to form. It is where you stop settling and start aligning. So yes, healing can feel lonely, but it's not empty. It is making room for a better you, for better people in your life, for better patterns, and a version of you that no longer accepts less than they deserve. So healing can be lonely, but it's worth it.
Healing actually feels really lonely, and nobody talks about that. And it's normally something you don't plan for because it usually happens after something breaks you. And then you find yourself forced to sit down with your thoughts, your patterns, trying to figure out like what could I have done differently. And that's the hard part because most of the times you start realizing that some of the things you allowed, some of the things you ignored actually freaking hurted. But what I'm learning is this: someone's inability to love you properly has nothing to do with your worth, but everything to do with their capacity. And once you understand that, you stop blaming yourself and you actually start to work on yourself. And if you're in this space right now, I just want you to know that you're not alone. Comment down below, like, have you guys ever felt like this before? Have you ever felt like your healing journey is actually appeared in your life where you feel pretty isolated? But yeah, just let me know.
Nobody talks about the ugly side of healing. They sell you sunsets, peace, soft music, and finding yourself. But real healing feels like death. Because the version of you that survived the chaos, it has to die. And people don't understand that. You can miss someone and still know they were trying to destroy you. You can love someone and still need distance from them. That's the war. Healing is waking up and fighting the urge to return to what hurt you just because it feels familiar. That's why broken people relapse into broken relationships. Not because it's healthy, because the nervous system confuses familiarity with safety. Your mind says, at least I know this pain, and that's dangerous. Because now you start romanticizing suffering. You start calling anxiety love. attachment, loyalty, and emotional exhaustion, passion. No, that wasn't love. That was survival mixed with hope. Healing is when you finally stop chasing people who only love broken versions of you. Healing is when silence stops scaring you. When you stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. When you stop needing closure from people who enjoyed keeping you confused. And here's the darkest part. Some people will hate your healing because your wounds made you easier to control. Your insecurity made you easier to manipulate. And your loneliness made you available for half love. But once you heal, you stop begging, you stop explaining, you stop accepting crumbs from people who feast off your attention. That version of you dies, and not everybody benefits from your rebirth. So if your healing feels lonely right now, good. Loneliness is temporary. Self-betrayal becomes permanent. One day you'll realize you weren't losing people, you were losing addictions disguised as connections. Healing isn't becoming a new person. It's finally meeting the version of you the pain interrupted.
I started realizing a lot of my relationships were built on survival, not alignment, not peace, not genuine connection. Some people only knew the version of me that over-explained, overgave, overextended, and abandoned myself to keep them comfortable. So when I started changing, suddenly things just started feeling weird. The conversations, they felt forced. The energy was heavy. And girl, honestly, I started feeling disconnected from almost everybody.
There was a time in my life where I used to feel lonely because I felt like healing had made me lonely. And I was feeling like that because once you start to shed ways and traits and behaviors about yourself, it'll make you lonely because the things that kept you in close proximity to people, you will realize once you release those things, those people don't fit who you are. So when you stop being an overgiver, when you stop being a people pleaser, when you stop abandoning yourself, when you stop overextending, when you stop overgiving, when you stop over explaining, when you stop performing, when you stop pretending, you'll start to notice that the people that you were doing those things to and the people that were in alignment with that part of you no longer fit you. Now it's you changed, you different. She thinks she better than, or he think he better than. Then it'll start to put you in a place in your life where you feel lonely because you feel like now nobody fits you, nobody gets you, because a lot of people are still stuck in their wounds of overgiving, overextending, being a people pleaser, always trying to make somebody happy at the expense of themselves, always over explaining, begging, performing, wanting to be liked, wanting to be accepted. Once you get to that part of your healing process, your circle is going to get smaller because you're no longer moving from a wounded place. Because the truth of the matter is, you shouldn't be doing anything that allows you to overextend yourself. You should just simply be who you are. But in order to be who you were always called to be, you always have to shed. Some people like you better as your wounded version. Always loving at the expense of where it cost you, because you have to love people. Always forgiving, always understanding, always there. People who are wounded also like you better when you're wounded. So when you do grow and you do have boundaries, a lot of friendships and relationships, platonic or romantic, don't survive because they were only in alignment with the wounded version of you. And that clarity will always have you feeling like you're lonely because you have the most people around you when you are broken, when you are wounded, and when you are always giving and doing all these extra things. You always have the most people around you. You are always the most liked and the most wanted. But that clarity also puts you in alignment to receive what is truly for you, to receive what truly fits your whole self, your elevated self. It just gives you the space to see and the space to breathe, and also to see that when you are the worst version of yourself, you'll always have the most people around you. Healing will allow you to protect yourself and to protect your space, and to also be very selective and intentional on who you have around you and who you allow to have access to you.
No one talks about how lonely healing can be, how you can be doing all the right things, going to therapy, doing the work, letting go of what hurt you, finally choosing yourself, and still feel a quiet emptiness you didn't expect. Still feel like you lost more than you gained. Still wonder in the privacy of your own thoughts if choosing yourself came with a cost no one warned you about. Because healing isn't just about moving on. It's about slowing down long enough to notice how much noise once filled your life. It's missing people you know weren't good for you. Missing what felt familiar, even when it wasn't healthy. It's wanting connection while being more careful with your heart. It's setting boundaries and then questioning them when the quiet settles in. It's looking at a phone that stays silent, scrolling past memories you're not ready to let go of, and asking yourself, who am I now that I'm not just surviving? And it's lonely, but it's honest. This is where you meet yourself without distraction. The version of you who no longer needs chaos to feel alive. The one who chooses peace, even when it feels unfamiliar. The one who walks away even when it hurts. The one who loves themselves enough to rewrite their story. And one day, you'll look around at the life you've built and realize you don't miss the old one anymore. Because this one finally feels like where you belong.
This is gonna sound crazy, but I can see why people settle. I feel like the part of your healing journey that people don't talk about, or this season of solitude, or just finding yourself again, or healing, people do not talk about how lonely it gets and how long you may be lonely for. And if it's too long, or what may feel like too long, you'll come to this point where you're like, being this alone is taking a toll on me, just like those unhealthy relationships were taking a toll on me. So if both of these things are going to take a toll on me, I might as well do it with somebody. I might as well do it with something I'm used to or something I'm comfortable with. And I feel like, again, this may sound crazy, but I feel like we have to talk about this, because not a lot of people do. And a lot of people feel this way, and they may feel shameful for feeling this way, but it's like, no, this is normal. A lot of us be feeling like this. People just don't want to admit it. A lot of people stay in relationships because being alone like this when you're healing is very difficult, because we're human and we're not supposed to do life alone. So if you're alone for too long, I'm telling you, you might get to a point where it's like, okay, now this taking a toll on me. This is taking a toll on me. If your human mind feels like you've been alone for too long, your human mind is going to feel like, maybe I should just go ahead and settle. And your person might be right around the corner. This is where trusting in God comes in at. A lot of people say that and in there. But I'm going to be real. It's easier said than done. It's easier to tell you, just keep on going, trust in God. He has something for you. It's so much easier to say that than to actually do it. If you've walked away from an unhealthy relationship or situation or even friendship, and, maybe you are walking away from your own unhealthy habits or decision making, and you're healing and you're doing the work, and it's very lonely. You're learning about boundaries and you're communicating these boundaries, and a lot of people have walked away because of those, and it's very lonely, and you've come to a point where it's like, dang, being this lonely is taking a toll on me. I might as well just go back to that. Don't.
And girl, that loneliness can mess with your head if you let it. Because sometimes healing, it looks like staying home, losing interest in drama, not answering every call, protecting your peace, spending more time with God, journaling instead of venting, choosing rest over chaos. And when your life gets quieter, you start wondering if something is wrong with you. But sometimes God isolates you to rebuild you. not punish you, but rebuild you. Remember that.
If your healing journey feels extremely lonely, then it's actually working. Healing is very, very unfamiliar because it forces you in a state and in a place that you have not been in. Very, very dry phone, not many people to talk to, very emotional, very depressed. It's not a good feeling. It's very, very uncomfortable, which is why you feel very, very lonely. In reality, it's not that much that is changing. Your life was perfectly fine before you knew this person. It's going to be even better after you knew them because now you're going to learn all these lessons and you're going to heal from things that you've been needing to heal from for years. You needed that lonely season. You needed that quietness to really focus and think. When we are in relationships, especially toxic ones, we never have time for ourselves. We never have time to figure out what we actually want out of life, what actually we need to work on, what we need to heal on, how we can better ourselves. Because all our energy is focused on this specific person. You're going to gain so much knowledge out of this time. You're going to grow so much as a person. You're going to never ever get yourself in a situation like this ever again. Take full advantage of the heartbreak and understand that better times are coming.
What did I tell you about wanting access to those rooms you prayed to stay out of? You've been constantly begging for peace, but yet you're so tempted to knock on that door for chaos. Why? You cried yourself to sleep over what that space did for you. You asked God to close that door, and he did. Now you standing at that door again, hand on the knob, talking about maybe it's gonna be different this time. It's not gonna be different. You just tired of the silence. You just missed the noise because healing feels so lonely, but you forgot how loud that pain used to be. You forgot how small you felt in that room. This time around, you don't need access to that place. You need to remember how hard it was to leave. And I'm never yelling at you. I'm just being your big brother. If you tired of the hurt, comment, I hear you.
You want to know what I found out when I started healing myself? I found out that everybody can't go with you on this journey. When you're healing, it gets uncomfortable for other people because they're so used to the old you, they have no idea how to deal with this new person. So what do? They try to pull you back into who you used to be. When in reality, all I want to do is heal in peace. The other side of that is sometimes when we're healing ourselves, other people get jealous because they don't want to do the work to heal themselves. And a lot of times it's because they don't want to get uncomfortable. So what happens is they fall by the wayside. I say it like this. Like the leaves on the trees, when the seasons change, they fall. They shed what is not needed. Sometimes the best part of the healing journey is losing the people that were never meant to be there in the first place.
And I don't know who needs to hear this, but when you're starting your healing journey, it's going to get a little lonely, sis. It's going to get a little lonely. And that's because you are going to have to set boundaries with people that you once didn't used to set boundaries with. You used to let those people play all in your face. And when you start healing, you're going to learn that you need to set boundaries with them. And they're not going to like it. Most of them are not going to like it, so they're not going to keep messing with you, or you're going to have to cut them off, okay? So it's going to get a little lonely, but let me tell you this. I am learning that I'd rather disappoint everyone else before I disappoint myself again, okay? So I'm okay with being lonely if it means that I will never disrespect myself. So just know, during this process, it's going to get a little lonely, but it's okay, girl. You choosing you this season.
I had to realize, just because I feel lonely sometimes, doesn't mean I made the wrong decision. Some connections were keeping me emotionally exhausted. And I think a lot of us confuse being surrounded by people with actually being emotionally safe. Those are definitely not the same thing.
Today I woke up with 0 notifications. I think that's become every day though. I'm not used to a silent cadence. But these days everybody gotta find somebody else to play with. I'm impatient. I've lost patience. I'm not the same me I used to be anymore. This is a new vibe, a new fragrance, a new frequency. And if I want better surroundings, then the low vibrations I used to allow can't get close to me. I gotta protect me, protect my energy. I gotta protect the love that I give out because not everybody could love as hard as me or stay as long as me and be as strong as me. See, my love is unconditionally, and it's a blessing and a curse because not everybody deserves that much of me. So yeah, I gotta protect my energy. So if that means I gotta go with silent days and 0 notifications, then I'm willing to go through that loneliness because I'm not allowing nobody else to play with me. I'm safe with me. My love is safe with me.
Nobody talks about the guilt that comes with healing. You're going to want to save this for when you're doubting things. So go on now. Save it. Healing, it ain't all bubble baths and sage. Sometimes it looks like staring at a text for 45 minutes because you're trying to decide if no is too harsh. When the real you wants to say, I said what I said, you'll start feeling bad for saying no. Bad for needing space. Bad for not being the emotional Amazon Prime delivery service everybody got used to. And that guilt, that's not you being wrong. That's withdrawal from people pleasing. Because when you're used to overgiving, peace feels like punishment. But let me say this real slow. You are not required to light yourself on fire to keep anybody else warm. And no, you don't owe them a damn TED Talk to justify your boundaries. Some folks gonna say you changed. They're right. You upgraded. You updated the terms and conditions. Let them reread the contract or go find somebody else to drain. Healing is not rude. Boundaries are not attitude. Protecting your peace is not a crime. Peace costs what it costs. And boo, the price just went up.
Healing feels lonely because you're breaking bonds that were built on your self-abandonment. And it's like leaving a crowded room where everyone's talking over you and suddenly you're sitting in silence. That silence feels unbearable at first until you realize it is peace. When you start healing, you miss the noise. You crave the belonging even when it was toxic, and you second guess yourself and wonder if you're the problem. And that's the cost of clarity. If you go back, you're trading healing for false connection, and loneliness in healing isn't a sign that you are lost. It is a sign that you're no longer willing to lose yourself just to find a place to belong with people who tolerated you. So let the grief and loneliness exist alongside your progress. Build new circles where depth is safe and not punished, and remind yourself, quiet does not mean empty. It means space for the right people. Healing will not isolate you forever either. It clears a room so real connection can finally enter.
So, if you're in that season right now where you're outgrowing people, protecting your peace, crying some nights even, healing privately, and trying to figure out who you are now, I just want you to know you're not failing. You're transforming. And transformation is always uncomfortable before it becomes beautiful.
Healing is lonely because it forces you to leave behind everything that kept you comfortable even when it hurt you. When you start seeing clearly, you naturally outgrow certain people, habits, and dynamics that once fit. And most of the world isn't doing that kind of self-examination that healing requires. So the deeper you go, the smaller your circle becomes. And it's not that others disappear out of cruelty, but it's that you stop pretending, stop people pleasing, you stop over-functioning, you stop bending yourself into the shape that made everybody else feel at ease. That honesty creates a ton of distance. And that loneliness hits hardest when you realize you can't go back. You also don't know who or what will meet you yet on the other side. It's the in-between, and I call that the liminal phase, where the old self is gone and the new one isn't fully formed yet, so it feels like the most isolating. But that's also where the transformation happens. The silence that you're actually sitting in and the peace that you feel, it's not punishment. It's the kind that's making room for who you are becoming.
While going through your healing process, you're going to find at times that it's very lonely. You're not going to be able to correlate your emotions and your feelings into words. You're not going to be able to tell people how you feel, not even your therapist, not even your pastor. Some things you just can't put into words. Healing alone is not uncommon. You'll find that most victims, when they suffer extreme traumas and they're put in the ICU, the only people they're allowed back there to see them is the doctors that are working on them. And then after they get stable enough, then they allow the family to come back there. Sometimes we can be so emotionally unstable that we need to be by ourselves. We need that time to do a self-check and to reevaluate ourselves. When you're going through the healing process, you got to remember you are the one that's going through the healing process. Not the people who you're confiding in, not the doctors, not the pastors, not the friends, not the mom, not the parents, not the sisters and siblings and cousins, none of those people, not your friends. You are the one that's going through the healing process. You might be confiding in them and explaining yourself to them, and some things they're just not going to understand. But you still got to heal anyway. Just as if you were an ICU patient. Everybody's not going to understand the extremity of your injuries. The doctor might be able to tell everybody how bad it is, but the only person who really understands how bad it is the one that's going through the healing process. Their body. Everybody's body heals differently. What might take you 6 months to heal from might take the next person 3 months. Same thing with your emotions and your feelings. When your heart is broken, you are emotionally and spiritually broken. And you have to put those pieces back together again. You have been broken from the inside, not the outside. So the inside healing process is a little bit different. Everybody don't see those battle wounds. You can see somebody taped up, bandaged up with IVs and everything coming out of them in ICU, but you can't see the pain of a broken heart aside from how you respond and you lash out to people and you're short and you're snippy and you're hard to get along with. You need to spend some time by yourself. You need to learn to retrust yourself. You need to heal. Don't be discouraged if you're at that point in your healing process where it seems like nobody understands you and you can't seem to get through to people and you just kind of just feel like you're just by yourself. That's okay. That's part of the process. Heal anyway. Nobody ever said that healing was going to be comfortable. Nobody ever said it was going to be easy. And neither was the process that got you here. But I guarantee you, if you stick through it and you go through this tough time, when you come out on the other side, you're going to look at this and you're going to be like, man, I can't believe I went through that. I can't believe I actually went through that and I made it through and I'm all right. But you can't get to that point till you go through it. So it's okay to go through it by yourself, but be encouraged. It's not the end. Greater is coming. Be encouraged through your healing process and heal no matter how hard it feels, no matter how much it hurts. Trust and know greater is coming.
You gotta stop being so hard on yourself. Give yourself some grace. When you are healing, it takes time. Like this thing about self-love and truly loving yourself, when you haven't, that takes practice. There are parts of you that you are going to have to let go. I'm talking about the part of you that has allowed people in your life to mistreat you. And I know that's hard. I know it's hard because you're already blaming yourself for so many things. But it's not your fault. That unhealed, wounded side of you comes from deep-rooted stuff that makes you addicted to that kind of pain. And when you're trying to let that go, there is this intense amount of withdrawal that comes with that. With time, you have to learn to be compassionate for yourself. And you're going to have to learn to forgive. And I'm not talking about forgiving the people who have hurt you. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. You must wake up every day and decide to put yourself first. And you do that every day until that unhealed side of you no longer has power. You are worth that. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
The problem is everyone is healing, but no one's changing. Everyone's healing now. At least, that's what they say. Therapy language everywhere. Boundaries everywhere. Self-care everywhere. But somehow the same patterns keep repeating. The same behaviors, the same reactions, the same excuses, just with better wording. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Healing isn't learning new words. It's changing what you do. You can talk about your trauma all day. You can understand your attachment style. You can explain exactly who why you are the way you are, and still hurt people in the exact same way, and still avoid hard conversations, and still shut down when things get uncomfortable, and still blame your past every time you're asked to take responsibility. And at some point, self-awareness without action stops being healing and starts being hiding. Because I'm healing isn't a free pass. It doesn't excuse poor communication. It doesn't excuse inconsistency. It doesn't excuse treating people badly and calling it self-protection. Healing isn't knowing why you do something. It's doing something different the next time it shows up. It's catching yourself before you react the same way. It's choosing discomfort now instead of damage later. And that part is hard. So people avoid it. They intellectualize their pain. They romanticize their wounds. They turn their trauma into an identity instead of something to work through, because changing means letting go of familiar patterns, even the ones that hurt you, even the ones that feel like home. And not everyone wants that. Some people want the language of healing without the responsibility of growth. But real healing shows up quietly in how you communicate and how you handle conflict and how you apologize and how you treat people when you're triggered. Not in captions, not in quotes, not in what you say you're working on, but in what you no longer repeat. So yeah, everyone's healing, apparently, but healing that doesn't change behavior is just, self-awareness on pause. And if nothing in your life looks different, If the same issues keep coming back, if the same conversations keep ending the same way, it might not be healing. It might just be, familiarity with better vocabulary.
Hey y'all, it's Life with 10 and I'm back with a word. No one talks about how healing is a lonely journey. You start to lose people along the way. You start to outgrow certain spaces. You feel like people don't understand you. But here's what you need to know, that loneliness is a sign that you're on the right path. Not everyone can go where you're going. Healing breaks cycles, and some people benefit from you staying the same. Just know that loneliness is temporary. If you're used to dysfunction, peace seems boring. Eventually, you'll attract people that match your healed energy. They'll align with you at the right time. Call it your season of separation. God, the universe, or whatever you believe in is removing distractions. Remember, don't run back to old patterns just because you feel alone. In the lonely part of healing, I want you to drop a I choose me in the comments.
The thing is, when you heal, what they don't tell you is that it becomes lonely.
Yo, I'm sure.
Yeah, it becomes really lonely because then you start realizing who's working on himself, who's not, who's doing what they have to do, who's doing the work, who's putting in the work, who's not, who's just settling for who they are. So you start reading people's energy and then you realize, I have boundaries now. I'm in a healthy state of my life. I'm healed. I have boundaries. So when you have boundaries, you feel like you're lonely because you don't want to mix with everybody anymore.
Right.
So yeah, that's a huge thing. So healing is a lonely journey, but it's a profound journey because I'd rather be lonely.
But you're at peace.
At peace. And by the way, even when people say you're lonely, you're never lonely. My God, the universe, like me, myself, and I, more than enough for me to be on my own.
Yeah.
So I'd rather do that than be at the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people. I cannot.
You know what no one tells you about healing? It gets lonely. Let's be real here, because healing isn't just about the affirmations and the journaling and the pretty crystals. It's about seeing the truth of who you've been and who you can no longer be around. Because once you start doing the work, like really doing the work, you begin to see who isn't. You start feeling energy differently, and you notice who drains you, who triggers you, and who actually inspires you to grow and become bigger than who you are. Suddenly, that big social circle starts shrinking, not because you're bitter, but because you've got boundaries now. And that can feel lonely, at first, at least. You start missing the old connections, but deep down, you know they were built on your unhealed self, that version of you that tolerated that chaos, overgave, and ignored those big red flags. Now you're in peace, and peace feels weird when you've been used to all that noise and chaos. But here's the truth here. Solitude isn't punishment. It's truly preparation. It's where you meet yourself again. It's where you start hearing your own voice, your own intuition louder than everyone else's. And then you realize that you are not alone. You're aligned. You, God, the universe, your higher self, that's a full table right there. You're not missing out by sitting alone. You're just no longer settling for crumbs. So yeah, healing might cost you a few people, but it'll return you to yourself. And that's a trade worth making every single time.
Healing will have you sit in the rooms feeling out of place. Even around the people that you love, you are going to start to feel like you don't belong there. Your conversation is going to change. Your tolerance is going to change. And it's going to get lonely for a minute. But I had to realize that I was not losing people. I was getting in alignment. Everybody cannot go where peace and healing is required.
Girl, if this video spoke to you, make sure you subscribe because we are healing for real over here. Not performing, not pretending, actually healing. And comment choosing me if you're in your healing season 2. I love you, girl, and I'll see you in the next video.
I got that diamonds on her arms, diamonds in her ears. She even wear that diamonds for a year. I'm trying to treat you special.